What if who you were back then no longer matches who you are right now? Do you still keep going with the original use plan, or do you shift gears? And if you shift gears, does it really mean giving up everything you've worked for? Those are the questions that we are going to be talking about today in this episode of the Daily Donna. But first, the intro. And welcome back to another episode of the Daily Donna with me, your host, Dr. Donna. And clearly your girl is on vacation mode, doing a little retreat with some friends, some old friends and some new ones from in the field of sexuality. And so far, really good. But what actually prompted this particular conversation is one that I had last night with a good friend of mine, Dr. Lex. We were mostly discussing like this space between what was and what is, right? When life is not exactly what you expect it to be, what are you supposed to do next? So, to give you a little bit more context, I have spent the majority of my adult life. So, we're talking about post first menses, the monarch, in pain. That has been my life. I knew that every 28 days, a girl was going to be in pain. And apparently, my pain was not typical, right? So, what was typical for me was not typical for others. So, chest, sometimes to the ankle, sometimes to the knees. And with the switch, at that time, I was using a specific brand's products. I don't want to name them because I don't know about the legalities of all that. But I was using a specific popular brand's pads. And then I switched over to Honey Pot, and my periods got way better. And then I switched from Honey Pot at the suggestion of another friend. I switched from them to a natural reusable pad. And the pain lessened. But because my body be bodying the way my body, especially at that time, my period still got worse because a girl had fibroids, and not a few fibroids, not like two, right? I had a small army of fibroids that had at that point stretched my uterus completely out of shape, so that it was not necessarily recognizable as a uterus. But I digress. Now, if you think you might want to see pictures, I have one, but I don't want to disturb you. I don't want to disturb. But anyway, the point is that I knew that body. I knew that version of me. I knew her limitations. I knew what she could do, when she could do, and when she could not do. That's what I knew. I knew that the first couple of days of my period, I'm not doing anything. I knew that the first 2 days would be with pain. The day before would be phantom pain, not quite pain. I don't know how to describe it because it still hurt. So what's phantom about that? But it was like the body preparing itself. I also knew that I would feel exhausted and that it would take me time after, especially to sort of recoup and recover, because mine were also super heavy. I was losing way more than I should. I was anemic. It was a whole thing, but it became part of almost a ritual. It was the preparing for the period, the recovery after the period, and then the prepare for the period. I think I maybe had like a week where things felt like really good and I was pretty, even keeled and okay and all that jazz. But I knew her life. I knew what to do with her time. I knew how much time I would spend on the washing and the cleaning, on the preparing, on the buying, on checking the schedule, moving things around. No, I can't do a massage on that day because I know how my periods go, which bed sheets needed to be on the bed, everything. I knew everything about her life. However, I'm post hysterectomy. I don't have periods anymore. I also don't have the phantom lead up. I don't have the pain. I don't have still the same reason for recovery. And because I don't have a uterus, and I've also gone through several 2 rounds, I think, of infusions for iron, I'm no longer anemic. I'm not tired. And the brain fog that I once operated under, I no longer am operating under. I am in a space of doing the exact things that I often tell my clients to do and that I've said to do in my book, Drink Water and Mind Your Business, A Black Woman's Guide to Unlearning the BS and Healing Self-Esteem. You cannot esteem what you do not know. That is one of the things that I continually speak about. You cannot esteem what you don't know. No self-concept, no self-esteem. I knew her really well. I knew her routines. I knew what she needed. I knew what I had to do, all of that. Gucci down to the socks. However, I am finding that I'm now needing to reevaluate what I knew. Now, that doesn't change your self-esteem. And I know that for some people, it feels like it does. I would say that it doesn't change your self-esteem. It probably is playing a little bit of a game with your self-confidence, which is not the same. So self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. And that's the overall. So what you know about yourself, and how you feel about it, whether you like it, you don't like it, whatever, that's your esteem. And that esteem can live along the spectrum of secure, damaged, fragile, vacant, and sometimes a little mix, right? Right now, the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence is that self-confidence is often related to competence, what you know you can do, what you feel like you what your skill level is, in a sense, right? My skill level with the version of me that was always tired, that was always preparing for or recovering from her period, I knew her schedule down pat. This version of me, I don't know her schedule. And I don't know if the wants that I wanted before are the same ones I have now. Let me tell you why. Because I'm not tired, because I'm not operating under apparently years of brain fog that I did not know I had, and because I'm no longer doing my regular cycle of preparing and recovery, it feels like the world has opened up as far as what it is that I can experience, what I can do, where I can go even. And so I find myself looking at all the things that I thought or that I said I wanted, and I'm realizing that in some ways they were anchored down into an idea of what I thought I would have to do with regard to the cycle of how I experienced my cycle. When a cycle disrupts, and it could be anything that is the disruption of your cycle. It could be that you've been spending all of you know how to take care of a certain person. It could be that you know the ins and outs of a specific type of job, what is expected of you, how you will show up. And so you build your life around the thing because that thing is so big, because that thing takes up so much room in your brain, in your day, in your schedule, in your wallet, low key, high key, in the wallet, right? So you have this thing that takes up all this stuff. But when that thing no longer exists, now what? Do you still want the same things? So we are, this is February 26th, 2026. And we are August, September, October, November, December, January, February. I'm 6 months post. And I am just now realizing I don't have to do what I did before because this is a new body for me and one that I must learn so that I can have competence in this one. I had years of building up knowledge in that one. I had years of building up the routines that would work for me in that one, perfecting them and tweaking them. And baby, I was good at it. And just because it was not a great thing doesn't mean I don't also feel the acute loss of that routine and of that knowledge. I feel less confident about how to care for this version of me because I don't really know what she needs when she's not concentrating on period preparedness and recovery. And the same thing will happen if that thing that you sort of revolved everything around, if it changes for you, you will also have moments where you're just like, I don't know what to do at this with this thing at this time of my life in this moment. Number one, I want to say it's okay not to know, right? It's okay not to know. You don't know yet. Because that's usually the key word that we're missing. We're missing the yet. And while you don't know yet, what you do get is the opportunity to learn. Because you can learn this version of yourself. You can learn who you are without them. You can learn who you are without that job, without that problem, without that health concern, whatever it is, you can learn. But it will take time. And what we're not doing is we're not tussling with ourselves, right? We're not beating ourselves up about what we don't know. You cannot know what you do not know until you know. But you must also take responsibility and accountability to learn. And for me, that is what I'm doing now. I'm taking the time and the space to learn. So this is this body's first vacation. I didn't pack a bunch of pads and extra backup pants and extra backup period panties and decide whether or not this was a good week based off what I didn't have to do any of that. This is my first time having so much more brain space and suitcase space. I learned that I love to travel with a robe when I don't have a chunk of my suitcase dedicated to period products because I also had random breakthrough bleeding. I'm learning that I always knew, well, a while back I learned that I was a morning person, but I didn't know how much of a morning person. I thought morning person, 8 a.m. morning person. I can start talking to you at 9 a.m. morning person. Now I'm learning that 6:30 me, she likes it, right? That's a thing that I'm learning. And I would like you, and whatever the thing is that may have changed for you, what's one thing that you're learning about yourself? Do you like that thing? Do you not like that thing? But the point is this, we will grow in our competence. A lot of us believe that our self-esteem is negatively affected when things change. And I would say that really it's likely your confidence is the thing that has shifted because you were confident in what to do before. And now you need to become confident in what to do now. I'm learning, and I know that you can too. So we are just going to take the moment to figure out what are the things that we're figuring out. And sometimes that means taking the time to reflect, to look back at what was, to know what is, and where we would next like to be. So I don't know about you, but for me, that means I use my, oops, I don't know about for you, but for me, that means I will use my relationship goals guide. If you already have one, use it. The relationship with yourself does count as a relationship. And for me, I'm thinking of it more as what was the relationship with my body, specifically as it related to my menstrual cycle, right? What was it like? What did I feel? What thoughts did I think? How did I live in that version of me? And in this moment, how am I living now that I know, now that it's starting to register that I don't need to check my phone to see how close my period is, that I don't have to pack a bunch of stuff for that period, etc. So this is a getting to know, but also what do I want for my future? Because quite frankly, if we're being honest, sometimes the things that we're doing in our past are very much anchored to whatever it was that was the center of that version of our universe. Figuring out what we do moving forward, that's the work. All right, y'all, you have been the bee's knees. Tell me something that has been your anchor that you're now noticing is changing. The sun is coming out to play, so a girl's got to go. All right, leave your comments. Remember, discourse, not disrespect. Keep it cute in the comments. All right, bye.